Do the Washington Commanders need an upgrade at running back? And what are their options? Come on, let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and today we're going to talk about running back. Do the Washington Commanders need an upgrade at running back? And what are their options? Is he already on the roster, or do they need to find another guy in the draft or in free agency? So, like I said, a lot to talk about, but we're getting closer to the NFL draft. So, like I said, we're going to be covering every position in need, and today we're going to talk about running back. So, again, the question is, do the Washington Commanders need an upgrade at running back? And what are their options? So, let's look at, is he already on the roster? Do we, when we look at upgrade, are we looking at upgraded performance? Do we already have the running back on the roster? And obviously, I'm talking about Brian Robinson Jr. Now, looking at Austin Eckler, obviously, he's older. He's not that lead back guy anymore. He's more of a complementary piece. So, can Brian Robinson Jr. step it up this year and remain running back one? Or do we need to find an upgrade in free agency or the draft? Well, let's take a look at Brian Robinson Jr. Obviously, hard-nosed runner, type of running back who, lowers his pads, likes to go, loves contact. But looking at his rushing numbers real quick, right? Games played, games started. So 2022, he played 12, started 9. And he also ran for 797 yards, which was his best year in the NFL, running for 2 touchdowns a year. Now, 2023, played 15, started 15, and he rushed for 733 yards on 4.1 yards per carry, which was kind of an improved performance from his rookie campaign of 3.9 attempts per rush. All right, so in 2024, he played 13, started 12, and he ran for 789 yards with a career high 4.3 yards per carry. Now, looking at his touchdown numbers, obviously, again, 2022, he had 2 touchdowns. 2023, he had 5, and he had 8 in 2024. Now, looking at his rushing numbers, I'm going to get into his receiving numbers, but rushing-wise, he has not rushed for 1,000 yards. And it's usually your milestone for your 3-down back, your lead back, man. You want to see him be at least, you want to at least see him get 1,000 yards, if not more than 1,000 yards, obviously. But he has not cracked even 800 yards. And, yes, he split time with other backs. Last year was Austin Eckler. Before that, other running backs, man. So, like I said, has he ever been a 3-down back? No, there's always been a guy who comes out of the, on 3rd downs and becomes a receiving threat. So, because looking at his receiving numbers, his best year was 2023, where he had 36 receptions for 368 yards and 4 touchdowns. But his rookie campaign, 9 receptions. Then last year, 19 receptions. Obviously, with all the weapons he had on offense with Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown on the squad, Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, the list goes on. With all the weapons, he's not going to be a feature piece in receiving. But obviously in 2023, he did have 36 receptions, but if he was still that guy who could be that weapon out of the backfield as a receiving threat, Austin Eckler would be on the team. So, there's definitely one area of his game that he has to improve in, because again, he's known as a hard-nosed, hard runner, man, downhill runner, right? So, if they decide to stay with Brian Robinson Jr., obviously he has to hit 1,000 yards, or it is a given that running back you need an upgrade at that position. Do they stand pat with him at running back? Absolutely, they could. They could. Now, should they? We'll see. I mean, you need, not to say he's not a weapon, but I think that the last time, and there's many names on the list. To me, the best 3-down back we ever had in Washington was Clinton Portis. In my era, obviously the Super Bowl guys are going to look at Riggins, going to look at other names. To me, sense, and notice that's his sense. So I'm not saying all time. I'm saying you should look at Alfred Morris. You can look at other names, but to me, we haven't had a 3-down back since Clinton Portis. So I'm not saying Clinton Portis is the best. I'm just saying we haven't had one as good as Clinton Portis for some time. And you can look at Alfred Morris and other names, man. But are we in need of a 3-down back? You'll probably say so, because, like I said, what do you expect from Austin Eckler at this point? He's older, but you're not getting prime Eckler. And looking at Brian Robinson Jr., he hasn't hit 1,000 yards, and with the amount of weapons you have on the team, now you have Deebo Samuel on the team. So that's even more, prospective touches out of the, as far as receiving, or even touches period, that is going to come away from Brian Robinson Jr. And like I said, if he could add that part of his game as far as being more of a feature piece receiving the ball, then you could kind of see them holding pat to him. But I think that they need to go ahead and go get a 3-down back. And like I said, it's nothing against Brian Robinson Jr. Good running back, man. Not great, but good. And it's just, I'm just keeping it 100 with everybody, is that he was good, but he wasn't great. Hard-nosed, tough, really, bring that Alabama attitude, but he wasn't the guy that you play all 3 downs. And receiving was his detriment, unless he adds that to his game this year. But overall, not a total weapon for 3 downs, man. So, okay, let's say the Washington Commanders do decide to move on. Let's take a look at free agency real quick. So looking at our free agent options, and not a lot of them you really like. Now, one in particular, if they took a chance in free agency, didn't want to go in another direction in the draft, and like I said, we're going to take a look at the draft picks in a second, but if they decided to go in other areas, whether it's on the edge, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's cornerback, could they take a chance on J.K. Dobbins? Obviously, he was with the Los Angeles Chargers last year. A lot of issues with injuries, man. But last year, following his torn Achilles that he suffered in 2023, showed some explosion last year. So he's a guy that could potentially be a 3-down back for the Washington Commanders. But like I said, injuries are always something that you worry about with J.K. Dobbins, former Baltimore Raven. So other names, Aaron Jones is on the list, but he re-signed with the Vikings with a 2 years, $20 million deal. So looking at who is still available, Rico Dowdy is gone. Alexander Madison is gone. So there's not a lot of options in free agency, to be totally honest. They got Nick Chubb, but again, injuries. I think it's very risky. And if you're going to replace Brian Robinson Jr., you need to replace him with a sure thing, or you just stand pat. So that's about it on the list, man. Nothing really pops out to me as a guy who could be our everyday back. Maybe Cam Akers if he wasn't injured all the time. And that's about it. So what is the best options if we do indeed want to move on from Brian Robinson Jr., the NFL draft? Obviously, the NFL draft is right around the corner, y'all. And like I said, we have, making moves this offseason. Our draft situation is, it's not as best as it was, man. Obviously, we had to spend some draft capital for the moves we made. Looking at Tunzel, looking at Deebo Samuel. And these are moves that we definitely need to make. Larry Tunzel gives us that franchise left tackle. So not mad at that. We definitely, if you're going to make a move with draft capital, that's the type of move you make. So I think it's a good move. Not mad at losing draft picks when it comes to adding that franchise left tackle in Jeremy Tunzel. But Deebo Samuel, again, 5th round pick you did give up in this year's draft. But here's the thing. It's a 1-year contract. So if he does not play to the level that you expect, you're not handcuffed to him long term. You can move on. And I definitely think they're going to go after a receiver in this draft. So like I said, Deebo, if he's healthy, if he's in shape, can be a Swiss Army knife for the Washington Commanders. If he has injury issues, attitude issues, whatever issues may arise in the nation's capital, they can feel some relief that it's a 1-year contract. So he can walk, he can, pretty much be on his way at the end of the season. So I think he's an all-pro talent. He is an all-pro talent, but he has to stay healthy. And he's one weapon of many weapons on his offense for the Washington Commanders. So looking at the NFL draft, what picks do we have? Well, we had the 29th overall pick in the first round. In the second round, the 61st overall pick. Now slide on, go and skip the third round because we had the 4th round pick, the 128th overall. And like I said, go ahead and fast forward through the 5th because straight to the 6th round with the 205th overall pick and the 7th round with the 245th overall pick. So looking at the running back rankings, who could we go after in the draft looking at the picks? And if you're going to go running back, especially a running back who's going to be a 3-down running back, you're looking at round 1 and round 2. You could probably find one in round 4. But like I said, looking at the 4 prospects you have for day 1 starter, you have some system backs here. But like I said, if you're going to move on from Brian Robinson Jr., I'm not getting a system running back. I'm going to get a guy who's a sure thing, a 3-down back who's going to be able to be that total weapon out of the backfield. So who would I be going after? And like I said, a lot of mock drafts have us going after Luther Burden III out of Missouri, man. So I would not be upset at that because he is a baller, and we need another threat opposite of Terry McLaurin, man. Because I think that if you got Terry McLaurin, possibly a 1st-round pick opposite of him with Deebo Samuel in the slot, and you still got Luke McCaffrey, the list goes on. That is not a bad wide receiver situation, man. So, like I said, Scary Terry McLaurin is up for an extension, so I definitely expect that to happen sometime in the future. And Deebo, the ball's in his, you see in his court, but it's up to him whether he wants to get that next contract in DC or if he's going to be on his way. And like I said, he's definitely an all-pro talent, but he needs to prove that he can stay healthy and be that weapon we need in his offense. So 4 names I'm looking at, and you really could take one of those names out of the mix because Ashton Genty out of Boise State, unreal, man. He's definitely a 3-down back. He is definitely a day 1 starter, but I think he's gone before 29. So the 3 guys I'm looking at that we could grab with our 1st-round pick or even a 2nd-round pick could be Travion Henderson is one, junior out of Ohio State. Now, 5'10", 208 pounds, very physical back, man. He has all the traits he shows that he can contribute at the NFL level. I mean, he's got great vision, good hands in the pass game. Notice I said good hands in the pass game, and excels as a blocker in pass protection. So he checks all the boxes for a potential 3-down back. So I think TreVeyon Henderson out of Ohio State could very well be a target, man. Like I said, definitely. I mean, anything could happen in the NFL draft. You know, it depends on the mock draft. Could he fall to 29? Really good question, because there's teams that do need a running back. Next on the list, Cam Scatterbo, Arizona State senior. Now, we already got a Sun Devil at quarterback, man, or former Sun Devil, and he's, obviously LSU Tiger, but, not a bad runner, man. I like Cam Scatterbo, man. I really do. Big runner. He's well, no, I mean, here's the thing. That's the only thing. Looking at the scouting report, the biggest question about him is his speed. So they say he does have the potential to be a day one starter. And I'm getting this. My scouting report is coming from NFL.com, if you are wondering. So he's a guy who, like I said, if you look at the quarterfinal loss to Texas, if you look at the stats, 143 rushing yards and 99 receiving yards, including a 42-yard touchdown pass. So he is very, very, very athletic, man. He can throw the ball, catch the ball, run the ball. He checks all boxes again. Next name on the list, realistic target for a 3-down back would be Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. Ohio State churns some guys out, man, with his receiver, quarterback, or running back, man. So could we grab one of these running backs out of Ohio State? Absolutely, because you look at what he did complimenting TreVeyon Henderson. He actually led the team in rushing yards last season, 1,060, and Henderson had 1,016. So Ohio State was able to have 2,000-yard rushers. You think that usually is a blessing to have one. They got 2. So I'm just saying, the factory they got running out at Ohio State, man, I'm trying to tell you, man, they're doing something right. There's something definitely in the water up in Ohio State. So those are the 3 names I think are more realistic if you want to grab a 3-down, every down back in his draft coming up. Because like I said, you can stand pat with Brian Robinson, right? And maybe go after a running back next year. Go after other needs. You go through free agency. Maybe you draft, maybe you get J.K. Dobbins for a 1-year contract and see if he can stand up. But like I said, if you're going to move on from Brian Robinson Jr., nothing against J.K. Dobbins. He had a good year last year, but I want a sure thing. You must as well get a running back who has no track record in the NFL. Now, obviously, everybody's going to have a track record coming out of the NCAA. But like I said, 2 different levels of intensity from the NCAA to the NFL. And you need a guy who's got, where his legs have not taken any punishment, and the rookie is the best way to go. So to me, like I said, Ashton Jeanty, I don't think we're going to be in a position to get him. He's going to take a total fall, maybe something in his background or something. But I don't, like I said, I hope that's not the case, because he's a young man. I definitely want to see him perform at the next level. But I think he's gone by 29. He's not even going to be around. I think one of the running backs out of Ohio State, whether it's TreVeyon Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, would be the answer. And Cam Scatterbo out of Arizona State, I think, could be a day one starter, man. And I think all 3 check the box as far as what you want out of an every down back, a 3-down back in the NFL. So you guys let me know. You get in the comment section, let me and my guy Greg let us know. Do you agree, disagree? Where do you want to get your 3-down back? Are you ready to stick it out with Brian Robinson Jr. 1 more year? Would you consider J.K. Dobbins in a 1-year contract, or are you looking at the draft? Because like I said, the draft is right around the corner. So the next video we're putting out, we're going to be looking at edge rushers, man. So definitely tune in, because we're going to show you all the options we have if we want to add an edge rusher, if we don't trade for Trey Hendrickson, that is. I'm just saying. So, all right, everybody, we will catch you next time. Hail to the Commanders, and peace.